Ladies and gentlemen, dudes and dudettes, I welcome you to grow with me. Today, I'm joined again by Siddharth Roy, dear friend and cousin from London. Hmm. Um, I actually wanted to talk to you first quickly about what I got up to in my lab last weekend. Do you know what a confocal microscope is?
Yes, I've used one.
Yeah, we learned how to use one of those, and so we were in small groups. There was six of us, and we were in there with I forgot her name. Apologize, Doctor something, and she was teaching us how to use it. Yeah, it's a crazy expensive machine, but also there's like so many settings that you have to get just right to get the image that you want to get, and it was like in an hour with her, she unloaded all the information she had about that microscope onto us. And we're expected to remember all the fine nuances of everything that she said. Yeah.
You are expected to note them down.
No, well, we were sent in there without any books, nothing. We were just sent in there in lab coats, just us. So yeah, we there was no possible way for us to note anything down. It was just listen and absorb.
The same thing happened. This was during my undergraduate final year. So,
Yeah.
where I was supposed to write a dissertation, and I basically you are supposed to do an experiment with a lab in the university, and in that lab, one aspect of my work involved using a confocal microscope. So all the students who were using it, they were given like a 1 hour lecture,
Mm.
and you're supposed to remember everything. But that's nobody remembered anything from that lecture. I dozed off because it was post lunch and the room was supposed to be dark because when you're using a confocal microscope,
Yeah.
it's yes, I
Yeah.
actually dozed off.
My God.
And the next upcoming week, I learned whatever by experience or by other friends. They told me how to take images or
Right.
whatever.
No, but we have 1 week.
Why did they teach it to you? What are you going to use it for?
Yeah, yeah. So we have 1 week to design a hypothetical experiment that we're running. But the aim of the and we have to write, so we don't even run the experiment, but we have to write a
Okay.
report on this experiment that we have designed. Um,
Okay.
and the goal of the lab report is to so the whole experiment has to have two aims involving the use of a confocal microscope to
Okay.
study whatever we get to choose, and we have to like fake images, make up like our own results. But the marks from this report comes from the methods section, because I understand now why that is the case, because it's like there's so many fine nuances that you have to get right. But they've given us 1 week to write this up. And I'm like, bro, the way she just unloaded like years of experience in just 1 hour onto us was insane. But
Yeah, it's ridiculous. You, it's too bad. You
yeah,
can, I don't know whether you can find information available
I
online. You
will, I
obviously don't
will.
recall everything what she
No,
said.
but I don't think any student does. So we will all
Yes,
have to
so it
go.
is just
Yeah.
irrational to expect somebody
Yeah.
to recall. Yes.
But it was still pretty cool being in there though, because we got to look down the microscope. We got to see what were we looking at? We were looking at human hippocampus tissue. So
Okay.
yeah, it was pretty cool. We got to see some
Interesting.
hippocampal neurons.
Yes.
But I find it so cool how when we were looking through the microscope, we were obviously seeing one plane, but
Yes.
then we took images, and just the way it works, as you already know, we got to see the neurons in 3 dimensions, and that was pretty.
Yes.
Yeah, that was very
Yes.
cool. Yeah, that was my first exposure to a microscope of that power.
I used it to study organoids,
Organoids, nice, and
pancreas organoids.
pancreas organoids, even more
Yes.
interesting.
So that is so the lab I was working in. It is center for it's called Center for Gene Therapy and Regenerative Medicine. So
Hmm.
particularly my supervisor, my professor, she basically does research in the field of diabetes.
Hmm.
So ultimately, the ultimate aim of all of them is to take a human cell take a iPSC, which is induced pluripotent stem cell, and make a whole pancreas out of it.
Oh wow,
That is
okay.
the
That's the yeah.
that is the future aim, like
Right,
in the
right.
next few. Yes.
Yeah.
So in between that, there are lots of steps, intricacies of stem
Yeah.
cell biology and developmental biology. So organoids are basic. You know what are organoids, right? Or should I explain?
Explain.
Okay, so uh, if you have a certain portion of the body, certain organ, say if you want to study it, before you actually extract a physical organ out of a dead body and subject it to the drugs you want to test in it, what you can do is, particularly if you are studying some molecular aspect of it, is you take a stem cell and you differentiate that stem cell into, you provide it with some transcription factors and other factors which can make it differentiate into the cell of the organ you want to study. And you basically develop this from the stem cell and all that in a certain three-dimensional matrix, so that you get a certain sphere,
Right,
which
right.
is, and that is called the organoid. And because it is 3D, it is more representative of
Yeah.
of
Actual
reality.
organ. Yeah.
Usually most cell cultures are like two-dimensional.
Yeah.
However, in a two-dimensional cell culture, you miss out all the 3D sort of mechanical forces, and
Yeah. Yeah.
two-dimensional and three-dimensional,
Yeah.
they'll be
Different.
different.
Yeah.
So that's what an organoid is. So they were
Right.
working with pancreas organoids, and I was looking at them under
You
confocal microscopes.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. For my lab report, like my hypothetical experiment is around it's around originally, so we had to discuss the hypothetical experiment with our professors before we could leave.
Yes.
And the one I came up with was I'm going to hypothetically study the brains of people who could have potentially had CTE, so boxers. And do you know what CTE is?
Had what? CTE?
CTE, yes.
No, expand it. Like
Let me
maybe the.
search up the full form, but it's chronic traumatic encephalopathy.
Okay. Oh, encephalopathy.
Yeah,
Okay, fine.
chronic
Encephalopathy.
traumatic
Okay.
encephalopathy. So it's basically the loss of neurons from getting hit in the head over and over and over again throughout the
Okay.
career of a boxer. Or
Chronic
like,
traumatic encephalopathy. Okay.
yeah. So I'm hypothetically, I'm going to use a confocal microscope to look at brain slices of deceased boxers to see the differences in their brains compared to a normal person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Um, you know how you were talking about how you guys are growing the organoids using stem cells? Is that the
Yes.
same thing that they're doing in America with lab-grown meat? Have you heard of that?
Yes, maybe. But what is more interesting about that is, in meat, I mean, if you take a stem cell and you differentiate it into muscle cells and make meat like that, that is less efficient. And what's more efficient is to actually, it is more efficient to actually sort of biochemically design the meat fibers from scratch.
Right. Okay. Interesting. So you think they might be
Yes.
doing that instead of
Yes, I
using
don't know exactly what they are doing, but
right.
I certainly know that it is more efficient to biochemically produce the muscle fiber which you eat as meat than to
Mm.
actually take a stem cell and
Stem cell and
differentiate
grow
it.
it up. Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
because if you want, in order to do that, it can't just happen by itself. You need a matrix.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
in the human body, there is more. So there are cells, and there is something called extracellular matrix.
Yes, I know.
Actually, extracellular matrix is more than the cells in
Yeah.
the body, in the
Yeah.
human anatomy. So if you want to make lab grown meat, you need some sort of
Extracellular matrix to grow it
yes,
in. Yeah.
and that is like, and in this and that would be some sort of a three-dimensional matrix, maybe say some sort of a hydrogel or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't know exactly what they're using. Yes.
Mm.
So that itself will cost a ton, and differentiating it in that, it is meaningless. You
Yeah,
might as
for
well.
sure.
Yes.
You know, if interesting thing like about this lab grown meat and everything is like people are doing this because apparently it's better for the environment than farming. And I mean, people are missing out on the point that it's only better for the environment than factory farming, but not regenerative farming. You know, it's such a weird step to take.
Well, in order to feed the animal stock and then obtain meat, it is. How do you mean it is better than farming? Because they are growing artificial meat, right? What do you
Yeah,
mean? Why are you even
but
comparing it to farming?
because the reason they're growing artificial meat is so that people can eat this meat without feeling bad about A, killing animals, but also B, the environment, the detrimental effect that factory farming supposedly has to the environment.
Yes.
Yeah. What are you
Okay.
researching?
I want to know what you mean when you say regenerative farming.
Okay. Regenerative farming, from my, I mean, you can correct my understanding because you're Googling it, but regenerative farming, from my understanding, is a method of farming which is essentially carbon neutral and I don't know the
No,
nuances.
yes, but that has got nothing to do with the problem with factory for not it is not just factory farming. The problem with industrial levels of meat and dairy production is basically this. So if you have a certain piece of land,
Mm,
okay,
mm,
and if you produce some sort of food crop on it,
yeah,
you will be able to feed a certain number of population with the amount of food crop you can produce per land, if that population is primarily consuming some sort of vegetarian products, non-meat products. However, if you have a large population who is dependent upon meat consumption,
yeah.
so you need animal stocks, and those animal stocks need to be fed a lot of food and water. So
Hmm.
they are in turn going to consume a lot of food and water.
Yeah.
So do you see this? So if you have a largely meat consuming population, you need industrial levels of meat production, and if you have industrial levels of meat production, you increase the burden on the soil, not in the sense of nutrient burden. What I'm saying is, for the same piece of soil, you can feed more people if they are non-meat consumers than if they are meat consumers. Do you see the logic?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I do see the
That is the
logic there.
problem. And currently, if you go by the United Nations data, uh, the maximum amount of sort of agricultural land or whatever food sort of grains are agriculturally produced, more of it goes into feeding animals that are kept than humans, so
Yeah,
that
but
those
that
animals can be cut and eaten by humans.
no, but see,
So
that's the
it
thing
is
with
ridiculous, and it is definitely industrial levels of meat production to feed a largely non-vegetarian population is quite unsustainable.
mm-mm.
That
But
is the reason. It's not about regenerative farming in the sense that is about sort of keeping, like,
no, but even
revitalizing the soil with the necessary nutrients. That has got, it is a completely different thing.
no, but like also a part of regenerative farming is you don't feed them grains and stuff like with the issue that you just said. Like most of the grain that we produce goes
Yes.
towards feeding cows, so
Livestock.
that yeah,
Yes.
feeding livestock, so that then we can then eat that livestock. But the point of
Yes.
well, I guess you can only do regenerative farming if you have a lot of land, which is possible in countries like Australia.
Yes.
Yeah, where the cows are actually just eating grass. They don't get fed
Yes.
um,
Yes.
grains and stuff. Yeah, but
Yeah. As a general principle, the higher the trophic levels you climb,
mm,
the more the burden you create on on the area of the planet.
explain trophic levels. What do you mean?
So primary trophic levels are, say, the plants. So then a sort of a herbivore consumes a plant. That is the second, the higher trophic level. Then a
Right,
carnivore
right.
consumes the herbivore. That's the
Herbivore.
another
Yeah.
higher trophic level. Suppose if you have a society, hypothetically,
Hmm.
maybe some tribal society which consumes carnivorous animals.
Right. And
Like if you have,
if they were
yes,
farming that,
so
then it
you
would be
will have
more
to
detrimental to
you
the
will have to
environment.
first
Yeah.
farm grains and feed the livestock. Then you have to feed the livestock to the carnivorous animal. Then you will have to kill the carnivorous animal and
To feed
eat
yourself.
it.
Yeah. I see what you mean. But like even with the way that like we do farming today, it's pretty bad. Like I'm talking about agriculture and like the way we grow corn and rice and wheat and things like that. Because of monocrop agriculture, we're actually ruining the land that we do it on.
Yeah, obviously
Yeah.
that is undisputable.
And and so I find it funny when like I meet people who are vegans and they're like, yeah, I only eat vegan food because I don't want to kill, I don't want what I'm eating. No, I don't want to kill any animals to eat the food that I'm eating. But a countless, countless number of animals die because of this
Yes,
corn you want to eat.
because of the what you want to eat,
Whatever,
corn.
what corn, whatever
Yes,
they want to eat. They want to eat
yes,
corn, they
yes,
want to eat
yes.
wheat, whatever.
So basically, the argument of non-violence doesn't stand. The
No,
argument
yeah.
of being environment friendly does stand.
But
So
how? Because wait, okay, why do you think the argument? Wait, let's just go over why the argument of non-violence doesn't stand, just so people who are listening as well get an idea.
by non-violence, if you mean you want to exist in a way which doesn't harm other animals,
Yeah, yeah, we mean
right?
that, and
Yes, the only way you can do that is if you grow your own food, everything
yeah,
you eat, if you grow
yeah,
it yourself and you do it in a way which doesn't harm other animals.
yeah, because the way
If you are
that
consuming plant products which are grown in a commercial way as they are in the market, obviously tons of animals are killed for that. It
lots and
is,
lots and lots of
yes,
animals, yeah,
yes. So
anything
that
that
is
lives
just
in the
there. So you
ground.
simply, it is simply impossible to exist non-violently.
No, but I was saying let's explain what we mean instead of just saying what we're saying so that people who disagree with us they get to hear our point.
Yes,
The reason why we're saying that lots and lots of animals get killed in commercial agriculture is because they kill all the birds that fly over the land.
yes,
They kill anything that's trying to get into the ground, rats,
obviously.
shrews, moles, anything that you can think of. And yeah, and then with also okay, I think we covered that. So let's move on to why you think it's environmentally better.
Yes, we just established that, right?
No,
So
we established that the non-violent point doesn't stand.
no, no. Before this, when I was talking about that on a certain piece of land, for the same piece of land, if you have a vegetarian population, it creates less burden on the land in the sense because they are consuming a lower trophic level.
Mm,
You don't need to industrially produce meat. You don't need to not industrially, commercially produce meat in the sense you don't need to first of all think of it like this. Suppose you have a non-vegetarian population, large
mm,
non-vegetarian population which consumes lots of meat.
yeah,
So in order to feed that population, you need livestock, you need chickens, you need lambs, etc., etc., right? So from a same piece of land, you are growing various food grains. First, that has to be fed to that livestock, right?
yeah.
And then you will need to kill that livestock and feed it to the animals, feed it to the humans. Suppose there is, say, 100 acre of land. In that 100 acre of land, you are growing livestock enough to feed, say, I don't know, say 100 goats, maybe.
Yeah,
Okay, hypothetically.
right.
So there are 100 goats, and with 100 goats, the meat you can obtain from 100 goats, maybe you can feed 1,000 people,
Okay. Yeah,
right?
that's reasonable.
Yes, and that too once,
Yeah, that's true.
because you'll have to kill those goats. Now,
But th-
from that same 100 acres of land, the amount of food and water that you fed to these goats, if you feed it to humans,
mm,
you can see it's going, and for a prolonged period of time, it's going to be more than you'll end up feeding more than 1,000 people.
that yeah.
Yes. So
But
now
but
extrapolate this on a mass scale. And you will
But
have what I mean,
but
and
you're
you will understand what I mean.
but you're talking about an ideal situation, right? Like if the farming, if the agriculture was done in an environmental friendly way, then
I'm
you
not
could.
talking about being environmentally friendly. Sorry, I misspoke. It's not about environmentally friendly. It's more about sustainable. Let's put it this way.
Yes, I definitely agree because of the topographic levels that you were talking about. It's
Yes.
definitely way easier to feed a population if the whole population was vegetarian.
Yes.
But in terms of vegans claiming like the reasons vegans use for being vegans, right?
Yes.
They say it's environmentally friendly and they say it's non-violent, which we've just been over. It's definitely
No,
not
it's
non-violent.
environmentally friendly, but it's not non-violent. It's
But how
environmentally friendly in the sense of being sustainable.
but at the same time they're ruining the soil because of monocrop agriculture. When I say they, I don't mean the vegans. This is just the corporations that are
Yeah,
doing
but
it.
they are reducing carbon emissions.
But then you see, like, where most of the world's soy is sourced from. It's sourced from the Amazon. And when I say the Amazon, I quite literally mean pieces of land that used to be part of the Amazon rainforest that have been
Yes.
cleared by farmers so that the soy can be
Yes.
grown,
Yes.
so that these
Yes.
vegans can drink soy milk.
No, so that your livestock can be fed and you can eat the meat.
That as well, though. You're right. Both
Yes.
happens.
And
Yeah.
no, and if you go by the data, the vast majority of agricultural products are used to feed livestock.
Mm,
So
mm.
the non-vegetarian is responsible for deforestation, not the vegetarian.
Okay. Fair point. Fair point.
Yes.
Fair point. Yeah.
Yes.
Interesting. Interesting. Oh.
If a larger percentage were vegan or vegetarian, you would have lesser deforestation.
You know what I think? I think
Yes.
the issue came because we industrialized meat production.
Exactly.
Yes.
And we
If
industrialize dairy production.
yes, and yes, that as well.
Yes.
If you wanted to go, if you wanted to drink milk, like in Kolkata, not maybe not in Kolkata, but in Jamshedpur, and I'm sure in some places of Kolkata as well. If not now, you go back like 50 years. The family
Yes.
just have a cow in the backyard.
Yes,
They
yes,
would look after that cow.
yes, exactly. Every Hindu household at one time had cows.
Yeah. And they would look after the cows, and
Yes,
the cows would give them the milk
yes.
and everything they needed. Hmm.
In fact, in
And
ancient India, one compliment was not a compliment. It was like, it's like one way of assessing somebody's wealth was the number of cows they had.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Um,
So, and kings would give, so kings would like give donations of cows to people.
right.
They would just donate cow, like
Yeah,
some person, some poor man is there, he donated like 100 cows to this person. And in
right, right.
those, yes,
Yeah,
if you read Indian stories, you find these
yeah.
incidents.
And also if you think about it, right, like if you wanted to eat meat, let's say,
Yes,
if you had to go hunt the meat that you eat,
yes,
it would actually be so much better for the environment.
yes.
Yeah, because you wouldn't have all of this issue that we're talking about.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And even if you didn't hunt, it is better for you to actually acquire the animal and kill the animal, prepare the meat yourself, and then eat it.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And I feel like if you as a person have an issue with killing the animal, then don't eat the meat.
Yes.
Simple. Yeah, don't eat the meat. This is why I actually want to try that. Like I want to not I well, I live in New Zealand, so it's not possible. You can't really go hunting. And yeah, because there's not many animals here in New Zealand.
Yes.
But I
Yes.
want to
And
see.
those animals which you can hunt there, you won't probably want to eat them.
Yeah, yeah. But I want to see. I want to actually see if I'd be able to color sheep, for example, because I eat a lot of lamb. I eat a lot of lamb. If I
You want to
have it,
physically kill a sheep for yourself.
because I want to see, because I consume a lot of lamb. Okay, as an individual, I eat a lot of lamb. So if I go to actually physically kill a sheep and
Yes.
A, I can't do it, or B, I feel guilty after doing it, I will stop eating the lamb, honestly.
Yes.
Because I feel like that's how it should be.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't even have to try it. I can tell you for certain I can't kill an animal. It's simply impossible for me to kill
Yeah.
an animal.
Well, I feel we're different in that way. But I feel like I think I
I don't
could.
mind killing fish, by the way.
Interesting, interesting.
I don't mind pulling fish out of water, killing them, and eating them.
Mm.
But um, see, because fish are further away from us in the evolutionary scale, right?
Yeah,
So
they've
they
just
don't. So I don't feel identity with them.
yeah.
It's just it may seem irrational to some, but I'm just telling you from my perspective
Yeah,
what
of
I feel.
course. Yeah.
So I might be able to kill a chicken.
Might be able to kill a chicken. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh, but it would be very difficult to kill a lamb or a goat, which is like a
Mm.
mammal. Like
Yeah.
a mammal is like literally us. It is like killing.
Yeah, it's pretty close to us. You're right.
Yes.
Yeah, no, when I hear of people like when I hear of people eating monkeys and stuff,
Oh
that
my God,
yeah,
that's
that
so.
gets to I'm like, well, I guess they live in places where they don't really have much options. Like you don't see Western society eating monkey. It's eaten
Oh my
in Africa
goodness.
by tribes and stuff. I guess they don't have what else are they gonna do? That's what they
Yeah,
find.
there are all the, if you talk of tribes, there are tribes which perform cannibalism. So
Right.
there's
No,
no
but
end.
I don't know about cannibalism. I feel like that's got a bit too far. I can't reason with that. But I feel like for these particular tribes, I can reason and see why they eat monkeys because
Yes.
you kill what you see. Because if you don't kill it, your family is going to die of starvation.
Yes,
So,
yes.
yeah.
So okay, so in that extreme, if I am put in a position hypothetically
Yeah.
where I am in an island and there is nothing else to eat and I have to feed myself and my family, then I'm going to kill an animal and with not feel like even a bit of remorse
Mm.
about killing an animal. But under normal circumstances, if I just have to like literally kill a
Yeah.
goat,
Yeah.
I will not be able to kill a goat or a sheep. It's simply impossible for me.
No, fair enough. Fair enough. But see, if I felt the way you feel, I at
Yes.
this then I would not consume that meat either. I'm not saying you shouldn't. You still
Okay.
can. Yeah. But I'm saying if I
I
felt the way
don't
you feel,
consume any meat on a regular basis. I consume it like
very rarely. Yeah.
very
Yeah.
rare
You told me.
occasionally.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting.
Yes.
Hmm. Um, this Zoom is about to
I'm
end.
not vegan. I consume on a regular basis. I love honey. I just
You
love
love
consuming
honey,
honey.
right?
Yes, I love
No, I know
honey.
you're not vegan for sure. Interesting. But
Yes.
before all of that, we were talking about how mammals were very close to being, they were closer to us on the evolution scale than fish. And
Yes.
that's why you feel more comfortable. You would feel more comfortable killing a fish compared
Yes.
to killing a
I
sheep.
won't feel any. If I could just pull a fish out of water, I won't feel anything. Literally.
Interestingly, I would feel bad for the fish if I just pulled it out of water. After pulling it out of water, I would like to like cut its. I don't know how to kill like gut a fish, but I'll do something to end its life. I feel like
Yes.
that's better than letting it just suffocate. That's a terrible way to
Yes.
go.
Yes. I
Yeah.
know.
Anyways. Your point about like your feeling that mammals such as sheep and stuff are basically the same as you, and that's why you don't want to kill them.
No, I didn't say basically the same as me. I said they are
Well,
closer to me.
closer to okay.
Yes.
So they're closer to you, and that's why you
Yes.
wouldn't feel as bad. That's why you would feel terrible killing them.
Yes.
Um, that brings me to an interesting point where some people believe that humans are not animals, or that we're not exact. Like I feel like people forget. No, let me rephrase. People forget that we are indeed animals that are part of the ecosystems that we all reside within. I feel like I feel like
You
that.
have conflated two different issues here.
Okay.
You said people forget that humans are also animals living in the ecosystem, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Humans living in a sort of harmonious coexistence with the ecosystem is one issue,
Mm,
and whether humans are animals or not is a different issue.
okay. Let's talk about whether humans are animals or not, and then let's
That
get
is a
to
philosophical discussion.
yeah, let's have that,
Yes.
and then let's
And the
get
other one
to
is like, it is, even if you are apathetic to all sorts of philosophy or religion or morality or ethics, uh, you obviously care about your own existence, and it has
mm,
like direct utilitarian consequences if you don't live in harmonious coexistence with nature. So it
yeah.
concerns all humans.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, which one do you want to discuss first?
Hey, up to you, anything.
Okay. Let's let's
The
let's
two are actually codependent if
yeah,
you go deep enough.
let's talk about whether humans are animals or not. To me,
Yes.
it's very simple. We are. I don't see how we are not. We need to eat,
Okay.
we need to sleep, and we need to, how do I put it
Reproduce.
nicely? Reproduce, but also pee and poo. You know what I mean?
Yes.
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 So I don't see
So
how we're not animals.
now define animal and define human first. So if you
Okay.
define them properly, the animal is, biologically speaking, we fall under kingdom Animalia, that is there. However, humans have the most sophisticated nervous system and cerebral cortex compared to other animals, and which
Mm,
makes possible our critical thinking, etc., etc.
but what about
So,
dolphins? We simply don't know enough about them to make that
well,
claim.
dolphins don't go to the moon, and they don't build nuclear weapons, and
But they don't have
they
any
can't.
need to go to the moon or any need to build nuclear weapons.
Exactly. So all animals live only for survival. Humans have pursuits other than survival.
But so do dolphins. Dolphins like to get high. They chase pufferfish and they'll take turns biting down on the pufferfish to get high on the pufferfish toxin.
Yes,
That's
but
nothing to
they,
do with survival.
exactly. So that is playing,
Mm,
and all animals play.
okay.
Like
So
literally all animals play.
yeah, but so they do something more than just
Yes,
surviving.
but okay. So say, let's say all animals survive and play. Humans do things apart from survival and playing.
So you're saying the fact that wait, but doesn't that just make us a different type of animal? Why does that make us any like
It's just, I mean, I think, and you are just playing with semantics here.
yeah, but I mean, isn't that what we're doing?
You don't disagree that humans have a more developed cerebral cortex than other animals,
No,
right?
I don't
Nobody
disagree
would
with that.
disagree.
No, I don't disagree with that. But
Yes.
I would like to point out we don't know enough about the cerebral cortex of whales, elephants, dolphins, for
Yes.
example. These are like
Yes.
I personally think that these are creatures that we don't understand enough. But
Yeah.
I will still concede. I think the human. This might just be biased, but I'm inclined to believe that our cerebral cortex is more developed.
No, no, it is not just bias, it is objectively factual in the sense, if you compare the brain body ratio of most animals, humans have the highest brain body ratio, in the sense,
That's false.
that's false.
Yeah,
Which
crows,
organism has the highest brain
crows,
body ratio?
crows, magpies. I mean, Google it. Google it. Very important. We Google this, but I believe that's the case. You do human. I'll do magpie. Magpie brain body ratio. Dude, what? Apparently, even dolphins and no, even dolphins have a higher brain body ratio than humans, apparently.
Never mind. Probably brain-body ratio is not the term I'm looking for. Then it is something else. So intricate critical thinking skills.
Wait, before
Or
you go.
hang on.
No, hold on, hold on.
No.
Wait,
Let
wait.
me
Okay,
complete
fine.
this. Let me complete this.
Yes.
What makes us crucially different from other organisms is our level of communication with
Mm,
others in our species.
I agree. But now we no
Our
not
ability to organize amongst
yes,
ourselves.
not but and no, yeah, wait, hold on. First, let's discuss that. That's so true, right? What if you look at monkeys, even monkeys have opposable thumbs, right? Some
Yes.
monkeys figure out that they can use like some monkeys we've seen in the wild, they're using tools in the sense where they're using a stone to sharpen another stone and they're using that to cut something. We're seeing
Yes.
this now, it's pretty cool. But
Yes.
that monkey is compromised in its ability to share that information with other monkeys,
Yes.
which
Yes.
we can do.
Yes.
Yes.
If you have you read *Sapiens* by Yuval Noah Harari?
No, I have not.
Okay, so there he makes this very interesting statement that before Homo sapiens developed, there were other Homo species,
Hominids.
yes,
Hmm.
who were physically bigger and stronger than Homo sapiens.
The
But
Neanderthals.
however, yes, however, the Homo sapiens, despite being physically weaker and smaller than these other species, they managed to just literally eradicate them. By eradicate them, I mean literally genocide them and finish them from the planet,
Hmm.
simply because Homo sapiens could better organize among themselves.
Hmm.
So these other species, they would live in smaller groups,
Yeah.
whereas the Homo sapiens would have much far bigger groups,
Yeah.
and with these far bigger groups they would attack these smaller groups of Neanderthals and just wipe them off.
Yeah.
So there is even some evidence of sex between these other species and Homo sapiens.
Yes, I know.
Yes.
It's like the a certain percentage of the European population
Yes,
has
yes, yes,
Neanderthal DNA within them.
yes,
But uh, that's all well. Like, yeah, of course, humans have this ability to, well, Homo sapiens have this ability to communicate and form organized groups. But
and they
so,
have a ability to communicate complex
yeah,
information as complex,
as what we're
far
doing.
way more complex than what other organisms can.
Yeah, like we don't just grunt at each other.
Yes.
We have dialect.
So we yes.
Yes.
So most of their communication is just limited to that.
Yeah. But let's look at some other animals that do also communicate very complex things. For example, honeybees.
Yeah, I mean, but just look at the scale. I mean,
Yeah.
honeybees can't. It's a ridiculous comparison.
No, but you were talking about the co co you were talking about communicating a complex idea,
Yes.
which we know honeybees do. They will leave their hive, they will go to a flower, they will come back and tell the rest of their hive where that flower is or where that field of flowers is. Which is best
Yes.
for how small they are. That's pretty complex communication. But anyways, that was still a side point. I feel
Yes.
like with dolphins, like we're literally using AI right now to figure out their communications because
Yes.
we can't hear what they're saying, but not saying. We can't hear their clicks because it's at a higher frequency than the
Yes.
human
Yes.
hearing range. And they have very complex patterns of clicks that we're using artificial intelligence to try decode.
Okay.
But
But
what they
I'm
don't
sure when you manage to decode, they won't be discussing what the
philosophy,
environment is made of, what they are made of,
I guess not. Yeah, I guess not.
whether or not there is an intelligent designer.
Yeah. But even if they were having these conversations, they don't have the ability to manipulate their environment because they don't have these
Yes,
opposable
yes.
thumbs. Yeah.
neither do they have this enough to manipulate their environment.
That's up to debate, right? We have to.
Okay.
We're still researching that, but
Yes.
even if they had enough of
Even
that,
this is not a thing to manipulate your environment, in the sense
yes, it
this is
is.
a this is a mechanical contraption which evolution, or which has evolved in Homo sapiens. They have evolved mechanical contraptions suitable for their environment,
Yeah, yeah.
and
But they, because of the environment they live in, they have no need to manipulate it.
how.
And wait, the reason why I'm saying that opposable thumbs is what allows us to manipulate our environment is it allows us to do this, the pinch and grip.
Yes,
Other apes can't do this. Their thumb is too far down. Like, so their thumb would be about here, and they can't make
yes.
that grip. So they don't have
No, they
precise
carry
control.
things on their mouth, right? Have you seen how a lion carries a cub or something?
Oh yeah,
They
I
can.
was talking about apes. I was talking about a monkey
Yes.
because they can't do this grip.
So it is the mechanical contraption that we have that is like sort of irrelevant. I mean, nature could have evolved a better mechanical contraption.
Mm.
We don't know what will happen in the future, or somewhere else in nature you may find a better mechanical contraption of grasping stuff for the sake of moving them than this. um, but what you won't find is another system as sophisticated as the cerebral cortex of Homo
Mm.
sapiens.
Okay, then wait. Let's first wrap up this conversation. I wanted to go into another topic. Let's wrap this up. So all of these that you've pointed out are just things that I believe just make us a different animal. I don't see why any of this means that we are not an animal, because you still need to eat, we still need to sleep, we still need to reproduce, and we still
Yeah,
need to
so
pee and poop.
it has like, then it's like a question of semantics.
Mm, mm.
Well, first define what is an animal and define what is a human.
Yeah.
So we are, biologically speaking, we are the most evolved and powerful animal on the planet.
Powerful because we're able to communicate and form
Yes,
groups, not
yes.
physically powerful.
Communicate and organize ourselves together in groups.
Yeah, and it's basically we can have, just throwing numbers, 100 humans working towards the same goal, which
Yes,
other
yes.
species can't.
And this the I mean, the way you do this is the way you organize Homo sapiens into groups is it has to be through some sort of complex abstract idea. It has to be an idea.
Yeah, yeah.
It cannot be a, like, it cannot be just like a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, ideas are infectious. They come to one
Yes.
person and they can spread to others. Um,
Yes. And
the
that's how societies are organized ever
yeah, yeah.
since Homo sapiens evolved till today.
Um, Before we continue on, the other part of it we wanted to discuss was uh whether we're living in harmony with nature or not. Um, I What do you think?
Hmm. Interesting question. It is, if you want to live in absolute harmony with nature,
Hmm.
you need to give up everything that is called civilization.
I think not. I think we can have civilization, but at the same time, we have to be aware that we are living in an ecosystem, and we have to be aware of the consequences of our actions, not only on us, but also on the other animals that we share this planet with. Not
Yes.
only animals, other living things. We share this planet with other humans. We share this
Yes.
planet with all the other animals. We share this
Yes.
planet with plants, and we share this planet with the other form of life form, mycelium.
Yes.
There are, there are,
Yeah, but
hmm.
how would just being aware help? I mean, you need to
Because,
exist in a way which doesn't infringe significantly on these other life forms and threaten them.
but we used to at some point in time live that way.
No, we never used to.
How? When we were living, for example, you go back to the time period where the Hindus had cows in their backyards.
Even then, look, for any civilization to happen,
Mm,
okay,
mm.
you need to get rid of forests, and you need, what we define as civilization exactly are sort of, say, human settlements where there is some sort of coherence among these people, and they develop certain forms of what we call as art and culture, etc., etc.
But like, look,
And
we're sorry to cut you off
yes,
because I already agree with what you're saying.
yes,
But if you look, for example, today to a hun compare today to, let's say, 50 years ago,
yes,
we've taken a step forward in living
yes,
in
obviously.
harmony with nature. But in terms of the fact that today there are more green trees on Earth than there were 50 years ago, because people are more aware and more things are happening towards looking after our environment. But
No, deforestation is more, right?
deforestation is more, but there's a no, I think deforestation has probably stayed at a similar level, or maybe it's taken an increase as well. But what has happened, reforestation has become an active thing that us humans are trying to do right now.
That is all right, but emissions have gone up immensely.
Yes, yes, emissions have gone up immensely. We need to figure out how to. It's just the way we live, right? It's just not fathomable how to reduce emissions.
Okay. If you let me elaborate the point I was going to make earlier,
Okay, sorry about
you
that.
can understand what I'm trying to get at.
Hmm.
So, yes, for any civilization to happen, you need to get Homo sapiens out of the forest. And why you disagree?
No, no, I'm listening.
Yes, so you need to get the Homo sapiens out of the forest,
Hmm.
and you need to establish agricultural land. That
Hmm.
essentially means, and agricultural land is not going to fall from the heavens.
No.
Establishing agricultural land means eradication of forests.
So you can eradicate some forest, have some
Yes.
agricultural land, but
Yes.
then you can also at the same time protect the other part of the forest. And you can at the same time help the animals in the forest with whatever the things they need may be that they need help with.
The agricultural land is not something uh, that nature has without human interference. In
Mm-hmm.
order to maintain agricultural land, you need human interference.
Yeah, but I'm saying
What that essentially means is, by natural law, the agricultural land has to be protected at the expense of the forest.
the agricultural land can be protected at the expense of the forest, because I'm not saying that the other animals, the forest, is more important than humans. I think human life is more important. So you can do
Yes.
what's needed for human life, but at the same time, you can the world is massive, it's huge, right? There's plenty of space for us humans to be in our civilizations, and at the same time protect the forests and the animals that live in the forests. It's just not something that many people were conscious about before. People are becoming conscious about it now.
It is only a question of scale. Now, what I am trying to tell you is, in order to protect other life forms, etc.,
Hmm.
you need certain forms of technology.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes?
Hmm.
How is that technology going to come?
The same way any other technology comes, investment.
which is progression of civilization.
Yeah.
Progression of civilization means more deforestation. So it is like a
No, because
it is it
why
is a
does
loop.
progression of civilization have to mean deforestation? You lost me
Because
there.
progression of civilization implies more food surplus so that Homo sapiens can engage in tasks which are not just about their survival. They can engage in technological, scientific, etc.,
But
endeavors.
I mean, civilization is progressing, and at the same time, most. Ooh, no. Overall, wait, question. Overall in the world, is our population increasing or has it started decreasing? Because in most Western countries, population's
Nowhere
decreasing.
population it is population overall has not decreased.
Yeah, so overall it's not decreasing. But I mean, in Western countries, populations are decreasing.
Yeah, that's meaningless. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
whether in a certain subset of a large
Yeah, yeah.
population,
No,
whether it's going
it's
to go
meaningless because
downhill.
overall. But I still don't think that just because population is increasing and civilization is growing, it has
Yes.
to mean deforestation, more deforestation, because there's plenty of space for civilization to grow. It's just,
Where
why does it have to be in the Amazon
it
rainforest?
does not necessarily mean forest. I mean, let's
Yeah,
not
like it
use the
doesn't.
word forest.
I
No, no,
think
not forest.
deforestation was the wrong terminology. Yeah.
Let's say non-human nature.
Yeah, we have to expand into non-human land for sure.
Yes,
We're doing
exactly.
that. But
And
at the same time, we can
that essentially means sort of warfare with
nature,
whatever
warfare
existed
with
before human
nature, yeah.
interference.
But we can at the same time as we do that, we can still protect the other areas. And it had like it's
Explain
simple.
this statement. We can still expand into non-human habitats and
Non-human habitats at the same
What do
time.
you want to protect?
Um, okay. Let's go simply, right? Things
Okay.
we things we can just do better as a
Yes.
society that would protect non-human lands.
Yes.
Waste management. Our waste management systems are very bad, right? Just
Yes.
we need to improve waste management. Bang, you're
Yes.
solving a
Yes.
lot of issues.
Yes. But that is maintaining civilization at its current state. That is not enhancing civilization or progressing civilization.
No. I'm not talking about the progress of civilization right now. I'm talking
Yes.
about things that our civilization could do
Yes.
that would help protect non-human life on the planet.
Okay. Okay.
A being waste management,
Yes.
B being well, simply we can stop the deforestation going on in the Amazon.
Yes.
It's not necessary. We can do our agriculture in different parts of the world. We just doing I don't know why we're just doing it there.
So
But
wherever you have to do, wherever you are going to do it, you need to replace whatever existed before that, and that is going to have some impact
yes,
on the environment.
but there's a difference in replacing a random piece of like just a random piece of land that was
What do you
wild.
mean by random piece of land? Anything
But
that is not under human cultivation can be either a forest, it can be a desert, it can be something.
yeah,
And
that's what I
assuming
mean.
that it
You can
is
pick a random
agriculturally
piece.
cultivable, it is not a desert. So what can it be? It is some sort of green
It can be
forest or
it can
something.
be a forest, but I'm saying it
Yes.
shouldn't be the Amazon rainforest.
Yes. Okay.
Do you know
But
what I
you'll
mean?
still be cutting forests.
Yeah, but you'd be
Yes.
harming less life forms
Yes.
than the life forms that we're harming in Africa.
Okay.
And I feel like in your point about civilization growing and that, I just feel like in the past it had never been in like the growth of civilization happened without taking into account of all the harms that we're doing to nature. I'm just saying that if civilization continues to develop with a little thing in mind, which would be the fact that we are humans on this planet for a very short time, we will all die 80 to 100 years max. We will all die. We're here for a very short amount of time, and that we're sharing this planet with other life forms in the present time, and we're going to have to give this planet to the future, to our future generations. I just think this wasn't something that was in people's mind. That hasn't.
Yes, because earlier the population wasn't big enough to
have such a
be a
detrimental
problem.
impact.
Yes.
Yeah. Speaking in terms of like this detrimental impact, I actually don't think like global warming and that is a very good measure of it as well. I feel like we do like the way we. I feel like the way that climate change activists and all of these people that they're looking at it, I also feel like they've missed the point.
No, obviously they exaggerated because that is how they earn their livelihood. But
Yeah.
however, just because climate activists exaggerate the extent of global warming doesn't mean that it is not there, or doesn't mean that carbon emissions are not a serious
No,
problem.
I think carbon emissions are a serious problem. But I'm
Yes.
saying just the way that climate activists are going about this, they've also missed the point and
They
they're not
have,
doing it
they
right.
have, that is their profession. They have nothing else to do, or nothing. They haven't. They have no
Anyways,
other.
we can all agree, us humans, we don't live in harmony with nature, and that it would probably be beneficial to our future and to the other life forms, obviously, to if steps were taken to live in a more harmonious manner. What these steps are, I don't really know.
Yes,
Yeah.
the steps are. I mean, and in terms of fundamental principles, the manner in which the economy functions has to be modulated.
Yeah, it does. Which is
In the sense, from fundamental principles, if the objective of human life is consumption of objects and pleasures,
morally, I think, or principally wrong. It's like very limited view of what human life can be. Like we have potential for so
that is
much
how
more than that.
economy runs.
No, yeah, sure, it does. Yeah,
Yes.
that's what I'm saying. I feel like it's missed like I feel like just the way our civilization progressed, we left behind a whole other aspect of life, which is just things like considering the fact that we're just animals on this planet, sharing this planet with other animals and other life forms.
Well, that's the thing, right? Other animals, they only exist for the sake of their survival. In the sense, they can go to any extent for the sake of their own survival.
Yeah.
Right? If those other animals were given uh, the same intellectual prowess as Homo sapiens have,
Yeah.
they would do the same things that we do. In some sense, we are them with more intellectual prowess.
Yeah, but I'm saying just overall as society, as civilization, we are wasting our intellectual prowess. Like,
which can be better engaged in
many things, bro. For just if we're looking at our generation, so many of us will have screen times of like 8 hours a day, I reckon, easily.
Yes.
Like a decent proportion of people in our generation will have screen time of 8 hours a day. Of that 8 hours, like say 6 of that will be wasted on TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. Like, what are we doing with the ability that we have been given to think, essentially?
No, those who are like that
Those who are like that, I would disagree with the fact that I would disagree with someone who would say they don't have the ability to think. I think they do. It's just they've never harnessed it.
no,
They've never
they
realized
had in past tense before this became addicted. They had the ability to think.
They still
Now they
do.
have
They just choose not
relinquished that
to.
ability to think.
Yeah, they've given up that ability to think because they've been pranked by organizations into thinking that this is what will give them most pleasure.
Yes.
Endlessly
And they have
scrolling.
become they have become slaves to
Yes, they
the.
have become slaves. They've become the
They have become
product.
slaves to the advertisers who want to dominate their minds.
Yes, because essentially what is happening is they're trapped on these platforms.
Yes,
These platforms essentially
generating money from them.
from them. Essentially, they're being mined. They're
Yes,
they're they're
when you get something from for free, you are the product.
yeah, exactly. They're the product. Their engagement is what is being sold by these platforms to advertisers. Very sad, very sad. But do you see what I mean? Like when I said that, like civilizations progress in such a weird way. Like our biggest companies, like some of the biggest companies in the world, Alphabet, Microsoft, Meta, all they're doing is they're farming other humans and selling it off to
Well, you
advertisers.
say it. The way you said it, it felt as if it is sort of unique to our generation. The social media aspect is unique to our generation in the sense the technological empowerment that exists, the immense
Yeah, I think
technological empowerment that
I
is unique to our generation. But forever, the vast majority of Homo sapiens were engaged in, if they were not engaged in survival, they were engaged in local gossip. They were not engaged
mm,
in philosophy or
mm,
science or
mm.
art or literature or anything,
And I
any
think I think we've
deep
just
human endeavor.
it's just interesting because we're at a stage where we can use the technological advancements that our civilization has made to
Yes.
do amazing things like, well, I'm not saying this podcast is an amazing thing, but like, you know, they have the ability to do this,
Hmm.
but they're choosing not to, and they're choosing to do
No,
the
well,
alternative.
you see, lot of them, we are doing this not because it is sort of, we think it is sort of better or something. We are doing this because we derive pleasure out of it.
Yeah, but they're
So
they're not.
the way they are, they cannot derive pleasure out of this.
Maybe because they haven't done this properly. I would argue that there would be a significant proportion of people in our generation who have not actually sat down and had conversations like this. Like we've been talking now for over an hour
Yes.
about just random things, right? But I would argue that a good proportion of our generation, and the reason why I'm saying our generation is because I know more about my generation than the other ones. So I'm not commenting on
Okay.
the other generations. A good
Okay.
proportion of our generation has probably never even tried to do this.
Okay.
And I was actually talking to Gia the other day
Yes.
about like what I enjoy about conversations like this is not everything that we're saying is like, you know, like brilliant. But
Hmm.
as we talk and these ideas develop, eventually things come out of our mouths that are actually like, oh wow. And then you feel good. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. But they've never felt good because they've never had the conversation for that long to get to that point.
Even if most people have, uh, even if they start talking about important stuff,
Hmm.
a very small fraction of those who engage in it will actually have the necessary ability to think critically enough.
But I, but I think critical thinking is something that can be developed. And the
Yeah,
only
yeah, obviously it can be. Yeah, fine then.
and the only way to develop it is to practice it.
Yes, yes,
And you
yes,
definitely don't develop it if you're sitting there watching a 30-second video,
yes, yes.
skipping to the next 30-second video that has nothing to do with the first video. There's no critical
Yes,
thinking going on because you're not allowing enough time to consume an idea that you can critically think
yes,
on.
yes.
Okay. I really want to talk to you now about what's it called? What's it called? What's it called? Because we were talking about evolution before, and that reminded me that there are people who think that evolution is not a thing. I want to go to
Oh my
that.
God.
I really want to go to that. Okay, there's
Richard
less.
Dawkins said something like, those who deny evolution, either they are ignorant, mad, or something else. I forgot.
Just before we cut out, we just started talking about evolution and how there are some people that do not believe in evolution. Something you said earlier though reminded me of this. I'm trying to remember what exactly you had mentioned, but something about how different we humans are to other animals, right? We're so different to other animals that I feel like those people who don't believe in evolution and believe in what's the other thing? If you don't believe in
Creationism.
yes, those people who don't believe in evolution and they believe in creationism, I feel like their strongest argument probably stems from just how different we are.
Look, in a big set, there are multiple subsets who may be very different from each other.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But there are some common characteristics which make them fall in the same set, big set. Unless you are able to prove that one of these subsets is lacking these characteristics to belong in the big set, your argument doesn't hold that they are separate.
Yeah, good point.
Because whatever the differences are between these two subsets, that is already taken into consideration when you define them as two different subsets in the big set.
I'd like to point out that, well, when we're talking about evolution, right, that's Darwin's theory of evolution.
Yes.
I feel like his theory of evolution doesn't explain everything. It makes sense, it explains a lot, but I feel like it still doesn't account for everything. Like,
what does it not account for?
wait, I think I need a better understanding of Darwin's theory of evolution. So let me tell you what I think that his theory of evolution is, and then you correct me on that. Is he saying that from single cell organisms, what's the word? Not assimilate. Yeah, assimilating, I guess, other single cell organisms. For example, how mitochondria came into the cell. That's what I'm talking about. From there, you eventually somehow get to every single species that we are just by select help me out here. What am I trying to say?
Selection pressure.
Yeah, from selection pressure.
No, so he didn't particularly talk about single-celled stuff because that was not very popular during his time. He observed various organisms all over the world, and he came to the conclusion that through genetic processes there is variation.
Yeah.
And then the environment, because the environment exists and the environment is in a particular way, the environment exerts a selection pressure upon that population of the organism. What that means is, suppose there is a population of an organism and it's interacting in an environment. Those members of the population who are better at existing in the environment, that is, they can eat well and they can reproduce enough before being eaten.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yes.
Or before dying. They will naturally, so their genes will naturally exist more in the next generation.
Yeah. Yeah. This is what I agree with. This is what makes sense to me.
So there is genetic, so there is diversity in a population of organisms introduced by genetic variety. And then the environment exerts a selection pressure on the genetic variety and selects certain types of that, certain variants who are better at passing on their genes to the next generation, and hence in the next generation
there's more of that gene.
Varieties are selected, that is, you see more of that variety in the next generation. And when this goes on for
generations,
for 500 million years, you have the sort of diversity that you have today.
But then, so how do we go from single cell organisms to what we have today? There's a missing link. This is what I meant by I feel
No, so
like,
you in your thinking you are not considering the time.
I don't see what type. So you're saying
So
from
one objection, so the I'll tell you why this issue of time is very important. One significant objection to Darwin at during his time was that in order for genetic variety and selection, in order for natural selection to happen, the amount of time it would take for natural selection to produce Homo sapiens and the other varieties of species that he saw around himself, it was more than the time the universe existed according to the physics of 1800s,
sure,
because the
but
physics of 1800s only included the solar system and they had some sort of a
yeah, yeah,
calculation about how long the universe existed. So
yeah.
if you did some I don't know the exact calculations, but by some calculations the amount of time that selection, that natural selection would require for the variety that existed then to be manifested was more than the age of the observable universe.
Okay,
So that
sure.
is why physicists objected to Darwin's theory.
Back then,
Yes, and the brave thing would have been to do was to tell the physics that your physics is wrong, fix your physics, because this is the only way that it can be, and we know that this is the
we know
only way it can be,
we know the
because
physics is wrong for
physics
sure.
has progressed beyond that, and we know the universe existed for a longer time and Earth has existed for a longer time, and that time is enough for
There,
variety
there is a
to be produced by natural selection.
So then how come natural selection did not produce anything else with the capacity to think and articulate like we do? And
So do you understand what that means, in the sense, what first of all, by natural selection you essentially mean there is an environment which is influencing a population of organisms with genetic diversity, and those which are better at
surviving will reproduce.
in that environment, they get selected. So
Yeah.
in the next
It's
generation of that organisms, those varieties would be there more,
yeah.
right? If that is the case, then if that is the case, then there is, right. What your question was, why did natural selection not produce other organisms as intelligent as Homo sapiens? What do you mean by
I
that?
didn't say intelligent. I said another species with the ability to think and articulate the way we do.
Yes, okay.
Okay. But wait,
Okay,
wait.
because
Mm,
once you attain one of them, once you attain to a significant enough population of one organism which has a mass of individuals who can think and organize the way we do,
mm.
we essentially sort of, to answer that, first of all you need to know what sort of environment produced, unless you know what the environment was which selected us for our ability to think and articulate was, you won't be able to answer this.
Yeah, I don't think this is a question that either of us are knowledgeable enough to answer, to be fair.
No, even if we are, so most people aren't knowledgeable enough to answer most things, but you can still think about it and hypothesize, right?
Yes.
So think about what sort of an environment would have selected individuals who could think and articulate like the way we do.
I think
So,
it's
so the
just
environment, not the environment, it would have been essentially, the pressure would be essentially it wasn't essentially a pressure. One might say that because a certain genetic mutation or bisexual reproduction, a certain variety appeared in the nervous system, which were able to think and articulate, and more importantly than thinking and articulating, the ability to group together the way we do.
But we were able to group together the way we do because we were able to think about complex
Yeah,
ideas and articulate them and share
exactly.
that.
So they are all interrelated.
Yes.
So once you have that, they essentially become the selection pressure, in the sense they will eliminate everybody else.
Yeah.
So it is not a selection pressure which is producing us. We are produced by a genetic variation, and then we become the selection pressure, finishing everybody else.
So what produced our genetic variation is an important question to consider, because you know how you said something. You know how you said something happened in our nervous system that allowed us to do what we're doing. There's a very interesting thing that over 200,000 years, there's a 200,000 year period where the size of the Homo sapien brain went from 350 grams to 1,300 grams. That's a very short period. And biologists and evolutionary biologists, they still don't have an answer to this. Why that happened? Because that's in 200,000, like you, just for example, when we were talking about evolution before, the time scale you used was 500 million years. Or let's at least say millions
How
of
long?
years.
So the planet has existed for 4.32 billion years, right?
Yeah.
How long has life existed? Let's just Google it. I don't know how long has life existed.
I don't know either.
Okay, so life has been here as almost as long as the Earth was here. So the Earth is 4.3 billion years ago. The oldest fossils are 3.7 billion
years old. Yeah. So evolution takes a very long time. Clearly,
yes. Not 500 million. So we have been evolving for at least 3.7 billion years.
Yeah, but so the doubling of the human brain. Well, no, more than doubling, going from 350 to 1,300 grams, happening over 200,000 years, is not explainable by
what?
By Darwin's theory of evolution, because that's accelerated compared to everything else. Every other evolutionary process.
So basically you just need one. So then you haven't understood it properly. You basically need not one, like at least a very small number of that particular variety to dominate everything else. Because you know how genetic variety appears, right? It appears through mutation in organisms that reproduce asexually, and genetic variety arises because of meiosis in organisms that reproduce sexually.
Yes.
So mammals reproduce sexually, so it is not just mutation. Meiosis and mutation both are causing immense amounts of genetic variety. Okay, and if you look at the DNA code and the sort of varieties it can produce through all the permutations and combinations,
yeah, it's insane.
4 bases across all the number of, I don't know how many nucleotides do we have. It's some billions, right?
Yeah, too many.
How many nucleotides in human genome? Yeah, so we have 3 billion nucleotide pairs. Okay.
Yeah.
So we have 3 billion nucleotide pairs, and in each of those positions there can be four different entities.
Yeah.
AGCT.
Yeah.
That means what? 4 to the power of 3 billion or 3 billion to the power of 4? Hang on, let me think.
But I stopped doing math a long time ago, especially statistics.
Wait, hang on. If you have 3 places, and if you... Anyway, never mind. It is
It's a
that number.
rather
That's
large number.
so yes. That number. It is going to be something like. Wait, I forgot it. It is some. It's an exponential number.
Yeah,
Okay. It's maybe it is 4 to the power of 3 billion.
sure.
Not maybe it is 4 to the power of 3 billion. Whatever that number is.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, it is an enormous number.
yeah.
Okay. So, assuming that whatever existed before us also had a comparable number of nucleotides in their genome. This is
No,
an
we're not
assumption I'm
talking
making.
about us. We're talking about Homo sapiens. We've already reached
Yeah,
Homo
so what I
sapiens.
said was before Homo sapiens, whatever we have evolved from,
Sorry,
assuming
sorry, I
so
misspoke.
that organism with 350 grams of brain, assuming they had 3 billion nucleotides in their genome. This is the
Right,
assumption.
right. Okay.
Assuming this, okay, for viewers. Yes, let me specify. So assuming that you have 4 to the power of 3 billion possible combinations.
Okay.
So that is immense variety by itself.
Sure.
You just need one, you just need, say, I don't know, maybe a few thousand of them to mutate in a certain way that would produce the brain to become 1000 something. What?
Yeah,
1000 what?
1350.
1350. And when that happens, when you have a certain number of them, obviously they have a higher advantage, selection advantage, and they are going to sort of dominate. And in the subsequent generations, and in each subsequent generation, you would see more individuals with a
Big,
brain
okay, so you're
1350
right.
grams and
No,
lower, less.
but also let's acknowledge that it wouldn't just the jump from 350 to 1350 wasn't instant. So it would be like 350, next one maybe say 400, and then they are more
Maybe. So
capable.
that is
Yeah.
conjecture. You don't know that.
No, I don't know that.
Yes,
Yeah.
and that is that. So this is the thing, right? What usually people consider to be like mind-blowingly impossible, that can be possible if you have um, sufficient amount of randomness in the fundamental in
Mm,
the in the in the in the fundamental entity, which is manifesting itself as these different products. So,
yeah.
so what is that fundamental entity in this case? It is DNA.
Okay. I see your point. I see your point. But
Yes.
just
Look,
for
just think about this. Just think about this.
hmm,
Homo sapiens, when all Homo sapiens came out of Africa, when
hmm,
the first Homo sapiens who were dark complexioned, when they went to Europe and sort of they had a mutation to attain a lighter skin, an individual might say that there is an individual with a black complexion, then how can you suddenly have an individual with a white complexion? It
no, but
simply
that
seems to it seems too impossible. But
right.
that is how DNA works, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Think think about how, have you ever thought about this? There are so many billions of microorganisms that exist on the planet.
yeah.
You don't you don't fall ill because of them. How?
I mean, there are
Because your
millions that
own
live within
DNA
us.
has enough variety. So the way your immune system functions is, out of all, this is going to blow your mind. Just
I've
let this
studied
sink
what
in.
you're about to talk about, but yes, tell me. Tell me
Yes.
anyways.
So the DNA is so vast, and it has so much randomness that it can produce more varieties of antibodies than there are
Yes.
microorganisms in the world.
Yeah. And in fact, we are um and all of these antibodies, the ability to produce them comes or like yeah, the ability to produce them happens in the gestation period, right? Like,
Yes.
yeah.
Not just, yes, and even throughout your life, you keep producing antibodies.
No, but I'm saying the ability, of course, you keep producing antibodies throughout your life, but the
You keep producing new varieties of them throughout your life,
no,
and the
but I
way that
thought,
works is also very close to natural selection.
but I thought the types of antibodies that you will be able to produce are determined during the in a phase during the gestation period. But it's just the types of antibodies, like, it's just such a vast number that it's bigger than all organisms that exist.
Yes, maybe. I don't know about the gestation period.
Okay.
Yes.
Um, um, wait, just for laughs and just jokes,
Yes.
there's another explanation to the doubling of the human brain. I'm not
What?
taking this seriously at all. It's just
What?
the what's it called? It's in the Sumerian text, the Anunnaki. What do you know about this?
No, I don't know anything. I've heard that word in these conspiracy theory history channels on YouTube, but I don't know
Yeah,
what it
that's
is.
sure. But I'm not that's where I became aware of this from. But then I actually looked into it. And well, not enough for this to actually be a serious thing, I believe. It's just
Yes.
funny that there's something like this that people consider. In the Sumerian texts, just for the listeners, Sumeria was probably the oldest civilization that it is the oldest civilization we know of, right?
Yes.
Right. In the Sumerian texts, there are mythologies passed down from their ancestors that people called the Anunnaki, they are actually on a planet that is on a elliptical orbit around Earth that is off, and it like comes every like some silly not silly number, some big number, like every few, like multiple thousand years, like it will
Okay.
pass Earth. Might be in the tens of thousands, I'm not really sure. And that
Okay.
apparently beings on that planet are way more evolved than us. And this is so funny that they genetically modified our DNA to make us smarter. And in that genetic
How
modification,
would they influence our genome?
I mean,
Unless they were viruses themselves, or they brought something
no,
analogous to viruses with them from their planet.
yeah, like they came to our planet and like but this is not what I'm saying. This is what the Sumerian texts or people.
Yes.
This is what people claim that the Sumerian texts say. Let's put it that
Okay.
way. That these
Okay.
people came and they modified our genome
Yes.
and and part that made us smarter. But part of that modification also was that they gave us an inclination to like gold because because they needed us to mine gold so that when they come around next time they can use that gold to preserve their atmosphere. What a crazy theory.
Ridiculous.
Ridiculous. Such bonkers stuff people get up to, and there's people that have like dedicated their lives to trying to prove this.
Well, again, you just factor in the amount of variety that is on the planet.
Yeah.
Now, see, we were talking about the variety that DNA produces.
Mm.
Just imagine the amount of variety that neural circuits can produce.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
When
Yeah.
you just see, whenever you, this is what I do. Whenever you see something which is like absolutely astounding and you can't make sense of it, like if
Mm.
you see a human doing the most crazy stuff, just think how many neural synapses there are and how many possible combinations there can be.
Yeah. Something that I always like
Actually, on an abstract note,
hmm,
whenever you see something like super crazy like this, which you have never seen before, what
hmm,
you essentially need to do is you need to look at the variety, you need to look at its origin and see whether the place from where this is originating um is big enough to have enough permutations and combinations to produce randomness like that and varieties like that.
right.
That was a very abstract statement. Did you get it?
No, I actually didn't. Make your point again.
Okay.
So when you see
Whenever,
something, wait, when you see something ridiculous, you have to
yes,
think about if there is enough variability to produce that.
essentially. So, particular, particularly in these two cases where we spoke of, I mean, you spoke of that Homo sapiens acquiring 1,350 grams of brain
Mm,
in 200,000 years,
yeah,
and this case of you seeing individually doing psychologically weird stuff.
yeah.
like dedicating lives to whatever rubbish.
Sure.
So when you see stuff like this, you first inquire into the origin of it. In the case of a certain organism, it would be the DNA. In the case of certain psychological characteristics, it would be the brain.
Hmm.
And in that entity from which it is originating, you see how big it is,
Right,
and does
right.
it have enough.
Yeah,
Do you see what I'm trying to get at?
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying
Yes.
now. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. When you pointed out the DNA and the brain, that's when it made sense. I could connect what you were actually saying.
Yes.
Right, right,
That is
right.
what I do.
Yeah.
And if you when it becomes really interesting, if you find that its origin is not capable enough of producing enough diversity to get that
Yeah.
thing which you were astounded by, then your brain will sort of go
Can't
even.
process that then.
Yes.
Yes. No, the brain is actually so cool though. Like, because I'm start most of my papers are around neurophysiology,
Okay.
and I have an interesting thing to talk to you about the brain. When we decide to do something,
Yes.
before we make the conscious decision to do something,
Yes.
our neural circuits are already firing to make that decision happen.
Yes.
So before you're, for example, experiments have proven this. Um,
Yes.
say someone has to press a button.
Yes.
Before they decide that I am going to press the button now, their neurons have already started firing, which is going to lead to them pressing the button. So this brings out the
Okay.
concept of free will and determinism. Because
Yes.
was it predetermined that he's going to press that button at that point, and that's why the neurons started firing?
Say that again. The last
Okay,
bit. What did you say? Not the
so
whole thing, just the last bit.
yeah, yeah. So
Was it? What did you say after? Was it predetermined? Predetermined. What did you say after
so
that?
because before the moment I decide I'm going to press the button,
Yes.
my brain has already started doing the processes required for me to press the button.
Yes.
Is that because free will is not a thing and it was predetermined that at that specific moment I was going to press the button?
Okay. Let's think about this.
Hmm.
Under any given circumstance,
Hmm.
there may be. Hmm. Okay. So we need to see what all other aspects are related to this quote unquote pressing a button. Why would you want to press a button, etc., etc.?
Okay, so
Yes.
the experiment design was they were trying to study the neural pathways working around pressing a button. And just in that, they saw that the neural pathway begins to fire even before you can press that button. Like
So
even
the
before
subjects
you
were
know.
told for even before the experiment that you need to press this button.
No, so sorry, I didn't not articulate that well. The subjects were told, whenever you feel like it, press this button.
Okay.
And they were also told to, so they had a stopwatch in front of them. They were told to note the time at which they decide to press the button. Before they make that conscious decision using EEG, we saw that their neurons had already started firing, which led to them pressing that button.
Oh, I see what you mean. Mm.
I've
That
actually,
essentially means, however, that is just that is a very simplistic and a very uncomplicated action and a very uncomplicated activity.
Yeah.
And for complex activities where we have to analyze all sorts of circumstances and think a lot and then uh, make a decision comparing a lot of things,
Mm.
that won't be so that won't be so that won't be so predetermined.
Mm. Um, I would also
Well, let's just think about this. When you are just pressing a button and when you are in an experimental circumstance
Hmm.
and you have been actually told that whenever you feel like it, you press this button, then I mean you are not actually thinking about it. It is not an activity where you need to
No,
where you need to sort of exert your
no, but
abilities
the
to
but
there.
the point is that it's your free will to press the button whenever you want to press it. But somehow, before you even know you want to press it, before you even decide that you're going to press it, your body is already doing the things it requires to do to press it. Just moments before you.
Okay, well, that's fine, because there is something called an autonomic nervous system
Mm.
where you have no free will over, in the sense you have no control over it.
But this isn't your
And
autonomic nervous system
yes,
I'm
I know
talking
that.
about. Yeah.
Just let me say what I am getting at. You essentially, if a large portion of your physiology functions like that, that is, you have no conscious control over it.
Mm.
The brain is within the physiology,
Yeah.
right? So obviously there may be all sorts of things going on in cerebral cortex, which is not, I mean, which you don't volitionally influence.
Mm.
Okay. Now, a more a more interesting observation could have been, uh, okay, did this record this? Suppose a certain individual sort of felt an urge to press the button. That is, they thought first that I'll press the button, then they decided I'm not going to press the button.
Mm. Mm. You're right. You're right. I guess you have free will exists then, because what you're talking about is the hyper direct pathway. So the first pathway that I was talking about is called the direct pathway. It's
Yes.
it's these are pathways within the cortico-basal ganglia thalamo-cortical loop. So basically
Yes.
from the cortex to the basal ganglia, back
Yes.
to the thalamus, and then back to the cortex. These are
Okay.
this is how we make all the movements that we make through this
Yes.
pathway. The direct pathway is what we use to make movements, and
Yes.
it starts firing even before we consciously know we're going to make the movement. But you're right. The hyper direct pathway allows us to stop the direct pathway even after
Exactly.
it has started firing. Ooh,
Yes.
I think this
Now
applies.
what you need to know is, when you decide to stop this movement, or when you think that you will perform this movement and you then decide not to, what is actually happening is the hyper, what did you say, high
Hyper
what?
direct pathway.
Yes, is the hyper direct pathway uh, showing action potentials before you have the conscious thought that I'm going to stop this, or is the conscious thought coming first and then the hyper direct pathway is showing action potentials? That is what you need to find out.
I have obviously the other research I was talking about as well was not conducted by me. There's studies that
Yes.
I have studied. This is
Yes.
interesting. This is something that there's probably research on this, but I'm not aware of
Yes.
it. That's an
Yes.
interesting point.
That
I
would be
think
more interesting.
yes, you're right. That would be more interesting. But You know how we were talking
And
about how
when you have those informations, only then you can actually meaningfully talk about free will.
mm, mm, mm. But interestingly, you know how we were talking about, like, say there's the direct pathway that's firing, but then you have
Yes.
the ability to use the hyper direct pathway to cancel off whatever the direct pathway was trying to make you do.
Yes.
This I think applies in a bigger sense as well, where sort of what is it called? There are I feel like there are deterministic influences in the world, but then I feel like people have the free will that they can exert against these deterministic influences. For example, me and you right now could have easily just been sitting on our phones scrolling through TikTok,
Yes.
which I mean, I enjoy scrolling through TikTok as well, right? Let's just talk
Yes.
about it this way. When I'm sitting on the toilet, sometimes I sit on the toilet for too long because I'm on my phone scrolling through TikTok.
My God.
Yeah, sometimes I realize that I'll accidentally, like, this doesn't happen often, but sometimes I'll accidentally spend like 20, 30 minutes on the toilet just because I was on TikTok. I've just wasted 30 minutes of my day. But if I'm conscious of that track that is laid out, I
Yes.
can work against that deterministic track and exert my free will. And I feel like exerting your free will often looks like doing something you don't want to do. Like,
Yes, obviously.
yeah,
Because
if you did everything you wanted to do, you probably wouldn't have any free will.
yes. But what is this quote unquote want to do? Like
I want to eat.
even this is a want, right? That I don't
No, let's say,
want to give in to whatever uh, even this is a want, right? That
yeah,
I
yeah,
don't
the
want to give
want
in
to
to
not
whatever
give in
impulses
to
I
the
have.
wants. Yes. But
Yes.
I'm talking about like just recently I've joined the gym again and I'm dieting and I'm living life, I think, in a way that most people should live to look after our bodies. I had let
Yes.
go and I'm trying to come back to that. Doing
Yes.
that is very difficult. I want to
Yes.
all the time eat yummy food,
Yes.
but I really want to eat tasty food,
Yes.
but I feel like by going against that, I'm exerting my free will.
Yes.
I really don't want to go to the gym every day. I really
But it
don't want to train multiple times a day like I am doing
yes.
right now.
Yes.
You were going to say something.
See, that is like a spring. The more you stretch it, it is going to rebound back with equal intensity in the opposite direction.
I was talking about how I feel like to exercise free will, to go against the deterministic forces at play, you
Yes.
have to do things that you don't want to do. And
Yes.
to that, you were replying with how it's like stretching a spring and that the spring will bounce back. What did you
Yes.
mean by that?
So it's like your regular life. If you suppose you're scrolling,
Hmm.
okay,
Hmm.
and you uh, for some reason, suppose you have an exam, you need to just stop scrolling and study.
Yeah.
Okay, when the exam is over and you have no other pressure, you will scroll even more.
Some people will, not all.
Yes, and the people, those who will, they were scrolling before the exam.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
You see, and maybe this was a poor example, but do you see what I'm trying to say? So if
Mm-mm.
you don't see what I'm trying to say,
No.
okay, when you are habituated to doing something,
Yeah.
okay, if you stop doing that for a while,
Yeah.
if you just forcefully try to stop doing that, when that force is removed, it is going to come back with greater intensity.
Yes, sure. But that's what I mean. That's why it's so difficult to
Yes.
exert
And
free will, because like
your
uh,
reason for stopping it should be good enough to like just, in the sense, there is a difference between suppression and transcendence. Do you see this?
yeah.
Okay.
I understand what you're
So,
saying.
okay, for instance, let's give an example. You are scrolling and you have to study for an exam. You don't like to study that topic. Maybe you find it boring. You have not studied it well through your entire year, but you have to just somehow pass the exam. You forcefully stop scrolling and you study. Okay.
Yeah.
This is suppression. Suppose you are reading a book by your favorite author and you are so engrossed in the book, the thought of scrolling doesn't even occur to your mind.
Yeah.
That is transcendence.
Yeah. So okay, but then if you're talking about, for example, like my craving to eat unhealthy food that tastes good to me,
Yes.
I'm suppressing it because I want to be healthy. I
Yes.
don't know what steps I could take to transcend the craving for that. Oh, maybe if you suppress it long enough, you can transcend that craving.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah.
Maybe for such like trivial matters, there is no such thing as transcendence.
Yeah, I guess there isn't. It's just you're in a constant battle against
Yeah,
your
so best
cravings.
is to stop battling and come to some sort of a harmonization. That is, I want to eat good food, plus I want to eat look good as well. So how can I do both together? So you reduce the amount of good food you eat, sort of control it to the
By good
extent that
food,
you
you're
can
talking
leave
about
them
tasty food.
at what?
By good food, you're talking, do you mean unhealthy
Unhealthy,
food?
tasty food.
Yes.
Yes. So you want to eat tasty food, unhealthy, tasty food, and you want to look good. So
No, but
you,
I'm saying if I want to, like, I want to eat unhealthy, tasty food, but I want to exercise my free will against my own cravings, and I want to completely not eat it. Let's say that's the case.
yes,
Then I guess
depending
you're
on
in a
how intense your desire is, that's so intense your suffering would be.
mm, mm.
Yes.
Okay. I feel like we should wrap this up now.